Greetings, magical souls. I've come on today to share a dream that I had a couple of nights ago. It was really, really interesting because I don't really always remember my dreams, and this was a dream that seemed to go on the whole night. I'm sure we've all had those once in our lives where you'll get up and then you'll go back to sleep, and it's like the dream just continues. So this was one of those. And the other thing that was weird is that my cats do wake me for food in the night. Like once or twice I'll get up, got to let them out and feed them. But they woke me, must have been about 8 times during the night. And I feel that that's significant because I don't know what they were doing, but with that many times being awoken, it feels like they could have either been preventing me from going out too far with whatever it is that I was doing, or that they were just helping me to anchor in the energy so that I could remember it because I kept waking up with little, each time I woke up, I had a little bit more of the dream and then I was remembering it. So it was quite interesting. And the other part about it is that it felt like at some point that it became lucid and I was very aware of what I was doing in the dream. I'm sharing it because it feels like it's important and it feels like a message. I do want to just say that I wasn't scared in the dream. I felt that I was witnessing, and there was a lot of symbolic stuff in the dream, even though it felt like I'm going to simplify it, but there was a lot that is symbolic in it, and I think it might help us in the coming days. The first thing is that I was in this house, and the house had these quite white walls. There was one room downstairs with a light fitting, and the light fitting was like a one of those strip lights, those fluorescent lights. And I was standing there with somebody, but I don't know who this person was, and we were talking. And all of a sudden, I looked up at the light fitting and I could see like this black stuff leaking out, like this black sludge or black goo that was running across the ceiling away from the light. And the person was talking to me, but I was so fixated on the light that their voice just kind of like disappeared. And I was going, what on earth is that? And then out the corner of my eye, just in this one room that we were standing in was a long staircase leading up, but like really, really high. It felt like almost like the staircase wasn't leading to a second floor, but like a fourth or a fifth floor. I mean, when I say the staircase was long, it like had like 1,000 steps in it. I mean, it was just ridiculous. One room at the bottom, one room at the top. And so I saw out the corner of my eye another strip light in this top room of the house. And I said to this person, come, I need to go and see what's going on. So we climbed up the stairs and climbed up the stairs and eventually reached this other level of the house. And I looked at the light fitting and I could see the same thing happening. But like this time, like spider veins and stuff really coming out like in a much bigger way. And so I looked around me for like a light switch, and there was a light switch on the wall, and I switched it on. And as I switched it on, I could not believe what I was seeing. I mean, it was so much worse in the light, but it was just the whole light fitting was like dripping with this black sludge. It was dripping onto the floor in front of us. The person behind me at that point, I think, disappeared because then I was standing there on my own. And I remember just looking up at this and going, oh my word, like what on earth is happening? But then it was like at that point that I became lucid. And it was like I just started to breathe and I thought, oh, I'm just here witnessing this. I'm witnessing this thing that is happening. And then when I looked closer, I could actually see there were like some bugs that were also coming out of the light fitting. Flies, cockroaches, insects, funny little bugs and things. And I was struck in that moment because I thought, oh, bugs have always been sort of demonized. And whenever you see horror movies and that, they're always bugs in places where there's been death or decay, or, there's always flies. And when you're seeing, sort of bodies and things like that, there's always creepy crawlies and that kind of thing. But I was really struck in that moment as to how the bugs are these sacred little beings, and they have souls just like we do, whether they're a fly, a cockroach, whatever it is, a maggot, it doesn't matter. And how much they have also been demonized in this world. And I know energetically even that bugs can clear rooms of energy in that. But bugs and flies and like dung beetles and things like that, they're so important because they break down physical matter. So when animals die in the wild and that kind of thing, they break down and help the physical matter to decompose and to be returned to the earth. And they're actually sacred cleaners. And I was really struck by this. And then I was crying because I thought, how is it that we've not realized that every single creature is important, and so many people are scared of bugs and they squish them and I just thought we can't be doing this anymore. We just can't be doing this. This is like a sacred cleanup crew, and maybe they're here to help us. So that was the first thing. There was a little bit of a different side on these bugs and that. But while I was then just afterwards, and I sort of returned to now looking at the light fitting and what was coming out of it, is I don't know if anybody's watched Stranger Things, but where the upside down like kind of bleeds into this reality, and where things start to be able to come through the walls and come through the ceilings and things like that. That's exactly what it reminded me of. But the message I got with there was is that there's a bleeding through, because I had to journal about this afterwards and see what on earth was going on. And so this is where the symbolism comes in, because that's really the end of the dream. Downstairs, upstairs, things coming out the light fitting, switching on a light, bang. That's the dream. But it went on the whole night. And so, but it just felt like there was a lot of symbolism with this. So, and I'm going to refer to my notes that I journaled about, because I didn't want to forget anything because it seemed very symbolic. So the first thing is obviously me, the stuff coming out the light fittings is symbolic because it's light fittings normally enable us to see. But when I switched it on, that the light further illuminated the dark. And so the message I really got is that the darkness is about to become very, very visible, even to those who are maybe still in a slumber. And there wasn't to have any fear around this, but just to be able to just keep remembering that neutrality. Like I was standing there and going, okay, I'm just bearing witness to this. I don't need to get involved. I don't need to do anything, but I need to be aware, and I need to know about this. I just need to have it in my awareness, because then I can deal with it and I can respond to it rather than reacting to it. So that was the first thing. And then also something about the levels of the home. So the bottom floor can represent like the subconscious or things that are hidden. And then the top floor can be, sort of the conscious mind, and even higher wisdom, higher self. The fact that the top floor was so far from the bottom floor and felt like that staircase was really, really long made me think that we were going up almost higher into the spiritual realms. It wasn't like just one floor up. And two things struck me there. So one is that there in the spiritual realms and in this realm, that things could be being released, things are being that suppressed darkness is starting to be released, and we know that that's what's happening. But the other side of that is some of the spiritual, are some of the higher realms being infiltrated. And I'll just leave that there. And I don't even know if it doesn't, it could also be symbolic because it doesn't necessarily mean to be that those higher realms are being infiltrated, but perhaps some of us here on earth doing the spiritual work, are we needing to just be aware that there may be more infiltration at this time? Because remember, as this astral realm collapses even more, there is no space for that darkness to go. The darkness doesn't need to be feared. It's the pushed down hidden parts of ourselves and of our collective consciousness, but it is bleeding through, and what's going on out there is happening within us as well. So it was a very interesting perspective the way this was unfolding. And the bugs, then when I journaled a bit further, I wondered if they were not a representation of our energetic allies. They could be dragons, could be angels, could be, the fairies, the unicorns, the cleanup crew, the crew that's holding space for us as we go through this, the beings that we can call on, even our teams of light, our ancestors, the ones that are supporting us while we're here at this time, helping us to transmute our darkness, back into light, to just recognize, look at, acknowledge, and integrate our darkness and not turn away from it and bypass it like we may have done in the past. So, were the bugs maybe sort of a representation of our spiritual allies, the ones that are actually helping us to go through this? And if any of you are, have your galactic crew, and that could even represent that. So some aspect of that energetic cleanup crew, that support crew, that crew that's helping us to also transmute some of this darkness. Because remember, we don't get rid of the darkness, we transmute it. We see it, we embrace it, we acknowledge it, and then we integrate it and we transmute it. The thing that came through for me at the end of the dream was like, buckle up. Things are about to get wild, but that we need to just understand that as more and more light comes in, as we do the inner work and we transmute our darkness to light, we're almost like the light fittings now being turned on, because as we shine our light into the world, it's going to just show us where the darkness is. And the darkness might then appear that it is more, but it's like being in a dark room where you can't see the shadows in a dark room, but when you turn on the light, you can see all the shadows. It's that kind of analogy. So it's not that there is more darkness, it's just that as we shine our light on it, we go, oh, that is a lot. But it's always been there. It's just that our light is illuminating the darkness, not necessarily that it is increasing. And that was an important part of the message. And that was it, is that we don't need to fear. It was just to bear witness to guide, um, and to maybe even hold space for those that are awakening, to hold space for that darkness to show itself, to for all the things that we've misunderstood, like the bugs, the things that we've not really appreciated or seen in the right light. Excuse the pun, but it really was that kind of message. And it could even be the misunderstood parts of the Earth's ecosystem, be those biological and energetic. So it was interesting because, as I say, the fact that the cats kept waking me, the fact that I felt like it was more than a dream, like I was in between realms, like I was working somewhere else. I feel like perhaps maybe I was even witnessing in sort of real time, even though time doesn't exist, but witnessing the energetic shift as it's happening. The It could have been in the astral plane, it could have been interdimensionally. I mean, I don't know what it was, but it just felt like I was really standing there witnessing what was going on, and just that it was being brought to my attention, being brought into my field for awareness to be raised so that I know about it. And it felt like, as I was journaling about it, it was like, this is something that needs to be shared. I mean, because I don't share all my dreams. And it was very interesting because this one was really, really different to those couple of times when I've woken up in what I call that 5D space, or that heaven on earth space, where there is just love and beauty and peace and all of the things that, well, I guess how I imagine New Earth being. But this was really quite different. This was like I was in that space in between. But of course, we can't have that new space until we've cleaned up. And it was interesting because with the cats, yeah, I feel like because they woke me so often, I could remember it. I had an active role in it, but also maybe that they were keeping me tethered from going too far out. I just had that sense. It's interesting because, and they were both waking me. So normally in the night, what I have is like one will wake me for food, the other one will wake me to go out, whatever. Each time I woke up, they were both on me. They were both waking me up. So it was very, very unusual. And then the other thing that I just wanted to mention was obviously with my work with the animals, with the dragons, there was a feeling of a very ancient magic returning and almost like a druidic type feeling, like we're going to finally start really connecting back in with the earth cycles of death, rebirth, we're so out of tune with the earth cycles. Oh, I'm getting full body goosebumps as I'm saying this, but it's such an important message because it ties into the bugs and the cleanup crew. But it's like we're so disconnected from the moon cycles, from the cycles of, spring, winter, summer, autumn. We're just not in tune with anything. We're so disconnected from nature. And I feel like there is a returning of this. There was a message from the bugs, like this real, that like the bugs are part of, and there is always this death and rebirth, death and rebirth, death and rebirth. But it's never ever death in the way that we think about it. It's just the changing of forms all the time because there's never just death, there's always rebirth after it. And you have to sometimes break down the old in order to get the new, in the same way that a snake sheds its skin. It can't grow if it doesn't shed its skin, the same way little insects shed their exoskeleton. In the same way a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. So there can't be, the death is more a transformation, not an ending. It is a precursor to the next beginning. And there is a very much, I felt like a message for me to share with everybody out there also, that as we go through this process, I think that we'll be more honoring of these natural cycles that we've gotten out of touch with, the natural cycles of our body, the natural cycles of the earth, of the universe, of the cosmos. And it's really just getting in touch with that again. And it was, as I say, it was an old magic, and it feels so familiar to me, so familiar, like the fairies and all the other elementals, and just that everything has its place, and that we start to do things properly, wake with the sun and not stay up late at night with these screens. But we really start to recalibrate and remember that we're a part of the earth. She's a part of us. We're a part of the cosmos. It's a part of us. It's this whole macrocosm, microcosm, as within, so without, as above, so below, as the universe, so the soul. And just this really coming together of everything. So that's really the message that I came on to share today. And as I say, it is not one of fear, definitely not. But I think a lot of us are here to hold the space. And I think that things might get a bit hairy. And I'm just being reminded as I end off this video to share again because I have to remind myself sometimes. So, to be very careful about where you are putting your energy. You can't change many things out there. You certainly can't change what's going on out there in as many of these systems collapse. But you can send love to or healing to somebody that may need it or to an animal that may need it. And it's just really a reminder that when you're getting riled up about things in the external world, that you are still feeding those things your energy. I mean, to be honest, I don't watch the news at the moment. I pretty much haven't a cooking clue as to what's going on in the political arena anywhere in the world. I don't know what's going on. Yesterday we had like a deluge of rain and what have you that supposedly everybody else knew about, but I didn't because I don't even look at the weather. But what I'm getting at is that my focus is not out there because what am I going to do if I know? I mean, yes, maybe I could prepare if there was going to be a deluge of rain and what have you, but I refuse to feed the system. I refuse to give it one minuscule amount of my energy. I'm focusing on what I want to do with my channel and what I want to broadcast. I'm focusing on keeping myself, my cup topped up so that I can help those in need when they come to me. I'm focusing on envisioning the world that I want to create, that I know is already here, that we've just got to go through this process. I focus on all the good things. When I'm feeling miserable, maybe I'll put on some music and dance. I'll journal, I'll cry a bit, whatever it is that I need to do. But the minute somebody sends me anything to do with some political thing or some other thing about systems that are breaking down and is, you know, I don't even look at it because I'm not giving it a minuscule amount of my energy and my attention. Because in even fighting against these things, we are still feeding that system our energy. And so, what you feed grows. So it's much better for me to just focus on the life that I want to create, the beings that I want to help, and on helping Gaia, helping the animals, helping the people, helping humanity. So that was just a reminder of that because remember that our energy is a lot more potent now. It's our energy is much more potent than what it was. So be mindful of who you give your energy to and what you give your energy to. That's all from me today. Thank you so much for listening, if you are still here watching. Remember that all you need is your light, and it's going to trigger some people. It's going to rattle the darkness. Just keep shining your light. Just keep being the light that you are. That's all you really have to do. So wishing you all a magical rest of your day, wherever you are. And thank you so much for being here again.